In order for us to grow individually and as a whole, these conversations are necessary. Let's get it. Hey guys, welcome back to Empowering Real Talk. It's your girl, Coach K, aka Keisha Woods. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not subscribed to the Upgraded Mindsets Media channel, please make this your sign to do so right now. If you are listening audio wise, make sure you are favoriting Empowering Real Talk on your favorite streaming platform. If you are watching on YouTube, then you see I am not here by myself. So I'm allowing my guest the honor of introducing herself. Hello.
Hello, Keisha. Thank you so much for having me. I am
Absolutely.
Debbie Weiss. I'm an author and a speaker, and very excited to be here to chat with you today.
Absolutely. I love this. So, brief thing, you guys, when I am interviewing for guests for the shows, I love to be able to do that. One, to connect, because you guys know I'm a big connector. I love meeting people from all across the world. But two, anytime somebody talks a lot about what I talk about too, I definitely love bringing them on the show because that means you guys are getting two for one. So I'm
That's it.
super excited to talk about that. We are all about really reconditioning how we live our life. And Debbie is a perfect example of that. So I'd love for you to just share a little bit about your backstory, Debbie, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So, I have been a family caregiver for over 40 years to first my father for 30 years. And then, of course, I have two sons, but my oldest son was diagnosed on the autism spectrum when he was two and added some other diagnoses. And that's a very different type of caregiving than with my
Absolutely.
dad. And then most recently, I was the caregiver to my husband who suffered from both physical and mental
Yeah.
illnesses and eventually was diagnosed with terminal blood cancer. And I was intensely his caregiver for the last 6 months of his life. And when I turned 50, and that was prior to my husband being ill, just really after the caregiving from the time I was 17, I started when I was
Mm.
17.
Oh, wow.
I was angry, exhausted, burnt out, resentful, like all the things, definitely not living my best life,
Yeah.
but just kind of assumed like, well, this is just the way it is. This is my lot in life. And I really don't have much of a choice because I would never not take care of my family members.
Right.
So this is just it. And when I turned 50, kind of said, you know what? Something has to change because 50 years has flown by and the next 50 are going to go even faster. And I don't want to be that person at the end of my life looking back with regret
Oh,
of, what my life wasn't or what I hadn't done or tried.
yeah.
But I had nothing in particular that I wanted to do or try.
Right.
I never secretly wanted to be an author or an artist or anything. I didn't have that. So, I had no idea how to even do that. Like, what am I looking for?
You just
I
knew it was
didn't know.
something. You just knew it was
Yes,
something. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I can relate to that so much, from the caregiving perspective. I took care of my sister up until she passed away, and then even myself, I had a cervical cancer diagnosis, but in the midst of that, I was still trying to do and provide for everybody else. So, I can, like, feel, like, the tenseness, like, just even talking about it,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of us that are there right now, right? There's a lot of us who automatically feel that we are obligated just because of who people are. And I get it, totally understand if times were different, I would not change a thing, with taking care of my sister up until, she passed away. So, but I know, like you, there was a turning point where something flipped and it was like, I can't keep living like this, and what was that day one like for you when you finally hit that switch and was like, something's got to give? I don't know what, but like something's got to give.
So my friends insisted that we go away for the weekend to celebrate when I turned 50. And one night we're sitting around and one of my friends said, "So let's go around the table and each of us share our hopes and dreams for the future.
Mm.
And I was stumped.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
hopes and dreams? I have hopes and dreams for my kids,
Mhm.
but for myself, like, aren't I done?
What's that? Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, I think I'm over. 50, it is what it is. And when I came home from that trip, I thought, "All right, I gotta figure this out, but where do I start?" And
Yeah,
so I came home and you know how you kind of, like, assess different areas of your life, like your
absolutely.
relationships, your money, your health, all the things. And for me at that point, I knew that my health is the one thing that I had to turn to, and really more specifically, my weight, because I've struggled with my weight
Okay.
from the minute that I took my first breath. And at that point, I had found myself more than 100 pounds overweight. And,
Mm,
when I was younger, it was like, I want to feel good. I want to look
yeah,
good. I want to wear certain, clothes that I can't do. It was all about that. But then when I turned 50, it was like, "Oh, crap. I wanna live. I wanna live a long time to see,
yeah.
my kids and my future grandchildren." So but when I came back, I thought, "Well, alright. I've tried everything under the sun in order to get this under control over the
Yeah.
last 50 years. Yeah, have I lost weight? Sure. Have I gained it all back and then some? Sure, every
Right.
single time. So, if I hadn't figured this out, like, what am I going to do differently? And so I just decided for me, I've, tried all the things, all the diets, everything. But for me at that point, Weight Watchers, I've been the most successful and the easiest
That's
for me. So
awesome.
I said, all right, I'm going to go back to Weight Watchers. But in the past, I had always gone with a goal in mind like, okay, I have to lose 25 pounds in
Yeah.
3 months or by my birthday or by the summer or, whatever. And if I don't, then I'm a loser. I'm a failure. What's wrong with me? So, like, what? If I lost 12 pounds, that's no good,
Right.
And that pressure, that perfection, that I'm on, I'm off. I did,
Yes.
I ate something bad. Oh my God, forget it. Oh, and then you start berating yourself in your head and you're like, why even bother? Right? Because I can't do this. So I said, all right, I'm putting all that aside. All I'm going to do, I'm going to show up to a Weight Watchers meeting every week. I don't care what I eat. I don't care if I exercise, drink water, all the other things.
Yeah.
I'm showing up. That's my only goal. And every week when I show up, I would feel really good because I did what I
You
set
showed
out to
up.
do. And
Absolutely.
that's
I love
all
it.
I did, probably for about 2 or 3 months. And I think I gained 5 pounds. But in a
I
way,
love
I was cool with it because I that wasn't my goal. My
that.
goal was
I was
to
just gonna
show up,
say,
and
yep,
I showed up.
yep. And I love that story, Debbie. Like, I think I really love how you like twisted that, right? Because we're living in a society where if things aren't going a specific way, then you're a failure. You didn't do what you're supposed to do. And I love that even though I don't love that you gained 5 pounds, but I love that you were consistent and disciplined on what you said you were going to do because that's the true win if we really just want to look at it. That was the true win. I love it. And having a community because if you were going consistently, then that means that that community was doing something for you. And I love that. I think that that's awesome.
Yeah. It definitely, it was the first glimpse of me understanding like,
Mm,
"Oh, wait a second." You
yeah.
know? I just changed the way I was approaching it, and it felt different.
Hey,
And so then
right
I
here.
just kept I just kept, "Okay, now I'll pay attention to what I eat 25% of the time, 50%," and just kept building.
Yep.
It was maybe like 3.5 years later where I was down 90 pounds. That was like 8 or 9 years ago, and I basically maintained that. Yeah, I've gained like 10 pounds, but at least
Yeah.
I caught it. I didn't
Right.
gain 100 back. And it's the first time. And so what I realized is that it had nothing to do with Weight Watchers. Like, yeah, they changed their program a little bit every couple years, but that wasn't it. It was
Mhm.
all me
Yeah.
and what my mindset was and how I was approaching it. The other thing, mindset wise, that I realized is that my whole life, I felt sorry for myself.
Mhm.
Why me? Why do I have this weight problem? And of course, all the people around me seem to not. Like, I grew up, I always said, I don't belong in this family, even though they all have weight problems now. Growing up, my parents were thin.
Yeah.
My brother was a string bean. Like, where the heck do I come in? I should be with my,
Right.
excuse me, but we say this with my fat cousins who lived in New Jersey and I lived
Yeah.
in Long Island. Like, I belong in their family, not this family. I thought everybody in New Jersey was nice
Yeah.
to people who had a weight problem because that wasn't the case in Long
Mm.
Island as a kid. Now I live in New Jersey, that's not necessarily true. But
Oh, man.
I used to think like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh," or I would go out and I would see what other people were eating and I'd be like, "Look at them. They can eat this and drink whatever they want." And, well, wait a second, maybe they're not doing that every meal. I was
Yeah.
seeing one meal. Maybe they
Right.
work at it, and I just don't know that. I just was assuming that wasn't the case. And I was spending so much time feeling sorry for myself that I had been saddled with this issue that, I was building all these stories in my head about what
Mhm.
must be happening with other people
Yeah.
and changing that whole perfectionist thing, changing like food is good, food is bad. No, if I want to eat pizza, I'm eating pizza. If I want to have ice cream, I'm eating ice cream.
Come
I'm
on.
just, I'm not giving,
Yeah.
I can't give it up.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's healthy for me
Right. Right.
anyway.
Right.
It's just having, control over it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Woo, so much to unpack right there because it is this the mind is where everything begins. And that's a journey that I had to figure out in 2020 for myself because you know, I love the one meal. This is only one meal that you're seeing. This might be the only meal that they ate, right? So, like when we're out in society and we are seeing people that are doing things that we may be a little envious of because
Mhm.
they're doing it, we don't know the backstory behind that. And I can relate to how you shifted that mind because that's how I had to look at things too. Like, I don't know what they've got going on once they leave the 10 minutes I see them. I don't have no idea what's going on after the fact, just like they have no idea what's going on with me. Um, so understanding that really helped me be able to shift that how I thought about things for me. And again, just putting into perspective how I set goals for myself or discipline actions for myself because I have to use the word discipline a lot more now because sometimes goals and motivation just doesn't push this mind as much as it used to, right? So really using and implementing the word discipline. Discipline means I got to do it regardless if I'm motivated or not. And that's another mindset shift that I've probably taken in more recently than not. I love that you really have like hug deep and really enabled that. Those things are important. And as someone who speaks about these things, all the time, I want to talk a little bit about resilience because we hear the word resilience a lot. And
Mhm.
when someone hears that or says that, they associate it with just being strong all the time. I don't. I look at resilience as having the strength to continue, but also understanding my vulnerabilities, also understanding that there's still some flaws and embracing all of that because I don't just want to embrace the strong part. I want to be able to embrace all of that. Is that something that you've kind of understood with yourself as you continue on your journey?
Yeah, I think that that's a great explanation. And I also think that it has to do with what you just said before about the fact that if you wait until you're motivated, you're not doing it.
At
And
all.
it's the same thing with resilience. If you wait until you feel like you're ready, you're not doing it.
You
Like
won't do it.
you cannot convince yourself that all of a sudden one day you're just going to wake up and be like, "Okay, I'm ready to
I'm
attack this
just
gold." Or yeah, that's
yeah,
not happening, and like you said, motivation, it's not always there, and
no,
we have to be able to do things when we're not motivated, and I think that that is really where resiliency comes in
it
because
is.
life hits you and gets you down and surprises you in not so good ways very often,
Absolutely.
and I think it's okay I can't remember. Everyone has different time frames. It's like I was so great and still am at throwing
Yes.
myself a pity party, right? But it's like, okay, you can maybe do that for 24 hours, maybe 48. I
Right.
don't go by 48 anymore, but maybe, depending on
Right.
what it is. But then do something.
Yep.
Get
You
off
can't
that
stay there.
couch.
You can't stay
Do
there.
one little thing. One little thing.
Yep.
You cannot stay there. And I think that
No.
that's what being resilience is.
Yeah.
Being resilient is because life gets all of us down.
It's gonna always, and I have to tell people that, I tell my clients this, and I'm kind of raw and uncut when I have these type of conversations because I feel like we will keep ourselves stuck because of something that's going on. There's gonna always be a bump in the road. There's gonna always be a detour, a reroute. There is something always going to be happening.
Yep.
It's how you allow it to happen to you. So, like you said, 24 hours, cool. All right, let's stay there. And maybe even 48. But 2 weeks later, if you're still sulking, and, I'm not speaking from a grief perspective because, you guys love to like pick and choose, but
Yeah.
I'm not speaking from the grieving perspective because that's obviously different. But if something happened in life to where you've kind of embracing like a little bit of depressive state or whatnot, you better be trying to do some form of tool, strategy, something to help you get out of that. It's not an overnight fix. You won't flip a switch, but I love what you said, Debbie. Do something.
Something. It
Something.
really does not take much, right?
No.
It usually is that one little thing. You always think that it's not enough. It's kind of like the same thing with motivation and like changing your habits and all that. If
Mhm.
you try to just overhaul whatever
Yeah.
habit you're trying to change, it's not going to work. And you do something so small, and most people, me included, originally think to myself, well, what's that going to do? You
Right.
know, that's hardly anything. That's never going to get me where I want to go. Well, it does because it's like that whole little domino effect. Look what I did today. Oh,
Absolutely.
I attained that goal. I went to that Weight Watchers meeting once a week. Pat on my back. I'm like proud of myself. Well, wait a second.
Absolutely.
That starts the whole ball rolling because if I did that, well, maybe I could try and do just a little bit more and a little
Mhm.
bit more. And that's how it happens. No, if I only went to the meeting and I kept gaining 5 pounds every few months, it
Right.
obviously would not have been successful.
Right.
But, it's the fact that that got me going. That
Yeah.
proved to myself I can set a little goal for
Yeah.
myself and I can do it.
Yeah.
And so what little other thing can I add? And you just feel good and then you want
You
that
do. You
feeling.
feel awesome. Those
Yeah.
little things matter. Small things matter quicker than big things
Yeah.
because 10 small things will equal one huge thing, and you're still feeling accomplished. But now you get to celebrate the journey along the way. We so focus on getting to that particular goal. We don't focus on the journey of the habit adjustments that you're acquiring, the negative thoughts that you're trying to tame because you're on this journey of, transformation and reconditioning your mindset. Like those things, I pay attention to all of that. And I had to when I started because if I wasn't shifting how I thought about things, kind of reevaluating my values and my beliefs, then I don't know if I'd be where I stand today. Because had you asked me in 2019 if I'd be a coach, a podcaster, author, and owning 2 businesses, I would have absolutely laughed in your face because
Exactly. Oh my gosh, me too. Me too.
please
It's
share a little bit more about what made you, like, even wanna get started on that journey too as a speaker and author.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I said, after the weight loss thing, I was like,
Yeah,
okay, well, how can I apply this now to other areas of my
yeah.
life since I learned this? And I decided that the next place that I was going to go was money
Mm,
because I was living a very ugly money story that I was ashamed of and was not taking ownership of. I was just hoping it would go away. And I said, okay, I've got to face the music. How am I going to do this? And so I decided, besides selling like my stuff on Facebook Marketplace, I
right.
decided, which was good because honestly, that's actually how I got started. I was like, okay. anything small. And even when I sold something for $3, I'd be like, oh, look
Yeah.
at this. I got this $3. And I'd be so happy because it felt like forward progress. I was
Yeah.
doing something
Yeah.
instead of like an ostrich sticking my head in the sand. I was actually trying. And
Yeah.
I took the money. I had an envelope and anything I got, I took. And you know what? Every month it paid for like haircuts for my family.
That's awesome.
And it felt good every time I was
Yeah.
like, I have the cash right in my little Facebook Marketplace envelope. So from there, I decided to expand and I said, all right, I, I'm an insurance agent. I had made the decision. I didn't want to, for a variety of reasons, put my efforts into selling more insurance. It just wasn't lighting me up. I needed to find something else. And
Mhm.
at the time, I was taking these like, health supplements
Yeah.
that I really liked. And of course, it was like a network marketing company. And
Okay.
I said, okay, I'm going to sell this and I'm going to bring in more income that way and, pay off debts and all the things. And I wind up simultaneously joining some kind of business mastermind online. I had no idea what a mastermind was. I just had in my head, okay, I'm going to sell this product. I'm going to join this mastermind. They're going to tell me how to do it, and I'm good. And then I go to the
Mhm.
mastermind and I'm blown away because it's completely different than I expected. Not to mention, everyone's like 30 years younger than I am. And I learn that, like, there's people like you. There's all these coaches
Yeah.
that are coaching on all these different things. And I was like, what? Like, I never knew.
Yeah.
I really felt like I walked into the Wizard of Oz. Like someone just
Love
dropped
it.
me and there was this alternate universe I discovered and it was exciting. And I thought, forget this supplement. I want to do something meaningful like that.
Mhm.
And so I started thinking that I was going to coach family caregivers learn how to prioritize their self care, since that's obviously my personal
Yeah.
experience. And so, long story short, that's where I started. When I was in that space, I found that being an empathetic person, it was too heavy for me.
Yeah. I can
And
see
I
that.
couldn't do something. I was already in that period, right in that specific period of
Yeah.
time. I was in a pretty heavy place with both my son and my husband,
Yeah.
and I couldn't. And so I, was then kind of searching around and I realized really, and I didn't see it, it was someone else who basically told my story back to me.
Mm. Them be the most powerful moments right there. Oh my God.
When you're like too in it to even see. And they're like, wait a minute, look at your story. And, you know, and they were the ones, because my podcast and my book and everything is called On Second Thought, Maybe I Can. And he
I love
actually,
that.
this guy who told me my story, he goes, your story is maybe I can. And
Mm.
I was like, oh
That's
my
it.
gosh,
Yeah.
that's it. And so that's where then I started to broaden and say, well, I want to tell everyone you can.
Yeah.
Maybe you can. You just have to start thinking differently and don't think that it's ever too late. Because that's what I thought when I was
Yeah.
50, that it was too late. Don't think that because, you have no money, all the excuses. I don't
Right.
care if you're sitting out there going, oh, yeah, listen to her. She doesn't know what my life is like. Yes, you're right. I don't know what your
I
life
don't
is
know.
like.
However,
However, I know because that was me making every excuse in the book, not thinking I was doing it, but I was telling myself a great story of why I didn't have any choices. And every single person, regardless of where you are, you always have a choice.
ooh, so
And I
powerful.
wanted to make sure to tell everyone that.
Yeah. I love it. I
Problem
love it.
was, how was I going to do that? Go up on my roof and start screaming?
Oh, I love it. That man, listen, that it's a lot of our stories. It's a lot of our stories. And
Yep.
like, I'm just so glad that you had the shift to say that you want to tell yours, may not want to be a coach, but you don't have to be to make an impact. I love that you found where your zen is, right? You found that, you activated that, you aligned it, and you are elevating in that. I love it. You speak to organizations, to other people, and you're sharing your entire story. You are pretty much an open book.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my when I was younger, my mother used to say, "Debbie, you don't have to tell everyone everything." And now I say, "See, I do, and now
I
it's
do.
paying off."
Yeah, absolutely.
Let
Yeah,
me
go
just
ahead.
say, in my book, I have a couple of them, but in that book, I left out a story. So the first book, on second thought, maybe I can. It's my memoir. And it is an inspirational story that starts with, childhood and a bunch of stories of
Yeah,
how I kind of developed some limiting beliefs. And then the middle of my life, or I don't want to say the middle, but, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s,
yeah.
where I faced some challenges besides caregiving, other challenges as well. And then 50, and then post 50, and I'm
Mm.
62 now.
Woo, and look
So
amazing.
So it's just stories. And I originally, made an outline of all the stories I was going to tell. And I didn't put that money story in there
Mm,
because I was too embarrassed and
yeah,
too ashamed.
I get it.
And nobody knew. Like nobody in my life knew. My husband didn't know. He didn't want to know. He knew something, but he didn't know. My friends didn't, nobody knew. And one day I think I was probably meditating. And it was like I heard a voice say, "You have to tell it all."
Mm,
And I thought, Deb, you're doing this so that people can relate and people can understand that you've been there, maybe not the same. We all don't have the same
right, right.
stories, but just the depths of where I was. And if I'm not going to be 100% honest, then it's pointless.
Mm, so
And
powerful.
so I added in that story. And, it's still sometimes when people that I know say, "Oh, I read your book," I'm thinking, "Oh,
I know you're
God."
like, oh God, like, please don't ask me any questions about
Yeah.
this, because we know that there are some people who aren't good intended, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But can I just say that I'm proud of you for putting that in there?
Oh, thank you.
I do.
Uh,
I think that what you said is just so important. And I love that that voice spoke to you because it is needed. And I'm pretty sure that it's kind of a burden, not burden, but like some shoulders are lightened, once you put it out there because you were no longer holding that in. And I think that that's amazing. And that's just another level of your resilience. I love it.
Thank you. And yes, it was very scary and, not as scary anymore, but still not
Yeah,
something I'm 100% comfortable with,
I
if I'm
get
being
it.
honest.
I get it.
But I just know that someone else sees themselves in that same story
Yeah.
and hopefully knows that they're not alone, that they shouldn't feel shame, that, we've all been to the
It's a lot
depths.
more common than people know. Trust
Yes.
me.
Yes.
Definitely.
And that just reminds me earlier, very early, much earlier in our conversation,
Yeah.
saying that, if I see that person eating that and I don't know what else, and social media just
Uh,
makes that whole experience so much worse, right? Because we're seeing everybody's stuff, and at least I was always thinking, you see whatever you think you're
yeah.
lacking. Oh,
Yeah.
look at them. They have the perfect family. Oh,
Yeah.
look at them. They have all this money. Oh, look at them. Look at how good they look. Oh, they went on this vacation.
Yep.
And, I went away back in October with my friends, and it was just an okay trip. But of
Mhm.
course, we took pictures and we posted online. And when I got back, I was talking to a friend, and she said, "Oh, it looks like you had such a great time on your trip." And I said, "It's okay." And she had just been somewhere. And I said, "Oh, but I saw your pictures and wow." And she said, and I thought, you see that? There's a
Exactly.
perfect example of
Yes.
how everyone's like, look at her. She's living her best life. And
And
I
it
was,
was
and it's great that I got to go on the trip and all the things. But you know, it didn't tell the whole story.
I get that 100%. I get that more than you know. Trust me, I do. I love that. I love that. So as we get ready to wrap up, Debbie, have been enjoying this conversation, but I just would like you to give my listeners one mindset shift, right? To take into the next chapter of their lives. We know that there are people on various stages of their journey. Some people might not even be starting a journey, and this episode could be that kickstart. So, what would be one mindset shift that you think could start it?
Mm, gosh, I love that. I hope if you're not on this journey that after listening to this conversation, you will be, and you'll
Absolutely.
know that you're not alone and that we've all been there. And it's really is just taking that first step.
Yeah.
I honestly think that the first step is awareness
Mm,
because I always thought that if I think it, it must be true
mhm.
because I never stopped to examine all the thoughts that were going through my head, all the things, all the stories that I was telling myself.
Yeah.
So, of course, my one tip is what's one little thing
One little
that you
thing.
can do? But
I love
I
it.
also just want to say that I want to just share a quote that everybody knows that I didn't fully understand the meaning until I kind of started down this path. And that's from Glinda the Good Witch, who said, "You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to learn it for yourself."
Ooh,
And I used to think that just meant Dorothy. You could have clicked your heels at the beginning of the movie and you could have gone home. But it is so much more than that
yeah.
because we each have the power, but we just don't realize it. We give
Yeah.
our power away to other people and circumstances.
Yep.
And you've got the power. You just have to learn it.
Yep.
You've got it.
You
There's
got
not
it.
one person out there that does not have that power.
I love it. Powerful, y'all. You have the power. You just have to get dig deep, get inside, get into that internal brain, that internal heart, and that internal just everything, and figure out what that looks like for you and take that first step. I love it. I love it, Debbie. Please let us know where my listeners can find you at on all socials and website, all that good stuff.
Yep. So the best place probably is my website. It's debbier.weiss.com and then all the links to social and everything. But like on Instagram, debbie.r.weiss. You just got to use that R. It's
Okay.
annoying.
And I'll make sure that those links are posted in the show notes, guys. So if you're listening or seeing this, then that means take a look at the show notes. If you want to reach out to Debbie, if you have questions, if you want to have her, she speaks virtually, in person, all that good stuff. Continue to do what it is that you're doing. You are definitely making an impact. And I'm so glad to have you on Empower Your World Talk.
Thank you so much. And you as well.
Thank you. All right, you guys, we're going to get out of here. But listen, I would love to hear your feedback from this episode. Let us know what you thought. Leave a comment, rate, review, share this with somebody who may feel like it's too late for them. That's the goal, you guys. We've got to get the message out that it's never too late for us to elevate in any level of our lives. All right. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you have subscribed. And until next time.